This is Frank Islam, Chairman and CEO of FY Investment Group, and your host of Tonight with Frank Islam. Today, our guest is Saqib Islam, and Saqib is a co-host of a TV show on Voice of America. Welcome to our show, Saqib. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for inviting me here, and it's always fun and inspiring to talk to you.
Sure. You also source inspiration for all the peoples and the audience as well. So tell us about yourself and a little bit about what you're doing in Voice of America, your journey from Rawalpindi to Washington, D.C.
Yes, I was born in Rawalpindi, grew up in Rawalpindi and Islamabad, the Twin Cities. And right after my college education, I just set forth for US. I just wanted to explore the world. On top of that, also get some higher education.
So you went to school where?
I went to school in Islamabad, Saqib College. That's of course that's another thing that when we talk about, we have this common ground. So I went to Saqib College, which is of course in the federal government in Pakistan, the top college. That was my pleasure to be there.
As you know, Saqib was the founder of Anglo-Oriental College in India,
yes.
Anglo-Muhammadan Oriental College,
Yes.
which in turn became a Aligarh Muslim University.
Yes, and that's where you're from.
Yes.
Azamgarh and Aligarh.
Right.
So yeah,
right.
so that also it's always makes me smile that we have this common thing in us. So anyway, so after completing my college from Saqib College in Rawalpindi, I came to Indiana, which is of course a Midwest state, Indiana Institute of Technology, to pursue my bachelor's degree, But I was okay, so I had seen
Bachelor's degree in what?
In commerce.
In commerce.
And
so how did you get into journalism?
That's where I'm getting to. I did my commerce degree, and when I was okay, what I've seen America in the movies and what inspired me to be in America, this is not what I thought about. See, so you see all these skyscrapers, you see a lot of people, hustle bustle, lights and glamour and all that, and I was there in a small.
That's the vision of America you had
That's
in
the
your
vision
mind.
of America, not in my mind. That's the vision of America for people outside of America.
Okay.
That's the vision of America. That's the picture of America, what people have in their mind, what we see in the movies. But when you get on the ground, when you see the reality, that's different. America is not only New York, LA, San Francisco, Chicago. It's huge. It's bigger than that, and that's what we're seeing today. Of course. But anyway, so I was in Fort Wayne. From there, for
Fort
one
Wayne,
semester.
Indiana.
Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's a small city, very small city. And then from there, I got to Maryland. I went to Baltimore City Community College. So I lived in Baltimore for some time, and then I moved to Virginia. I went to Virginia UVA, and then to George Mason University.
Oh
for my
wow,
master's.
George Mason University.
Yes.
You traveled a long way.
Yes.
And then got into the Voice of America, the journalist?
Then, yes. So when I was doing my master's from George Mason's Institute of Conflict Analysis and Resolution. So
Conflict resolutions, yeah.
Yes,
that's a very important aspect.
So that's so after my commerce degree, I went towards public policy. I did a degree in public policy, and then I was okay, I need to do something more. So I started this master's degree in Institute of Conflict Analysis and Resolution at George Mason. And during that time, I had an opportunity to do an internship with the Broadcasting Board of Governors or Voice of America. And then
that's how you got
here
there.
I am.
So you've been there for how long in Voice of America?
It is now 8 years.
Oh, so you've been there for a long time, and you have
Yes.
a great show, as I understand.
Yes, I mean, so there was a journey from Pakistan, Rawalpindi, Islamabad to US, and from, of course, my school to where I am today.
To Voice of America.
Yes, and then within Voice of America, so I started as a TV reporter. So what my vision was to cover the youth stories,
Yeah,
the
okay.
interfaith stories. So when
Interfaith stories.
Interfaith stories. So when I started as a TV producer, actually an associate producer. So my job was to research stories, and that was 2009. President Obama was elected.
Yes.
And so I remember the election night, of course. And then during that election night, I was an intern, and the inauguration night, I was an employee. So that's
Wow.
what happened. So what was going on that So that's the highlight of my career so far.
Wonderful, wonderful.
So when I started, I was researching stories about Muslims in America. I did a lot of youth stories. I went around the U.S. in the different colleges and universities, and not only about like Pakistani and Muslim students. I also, you know, told the stories, all the students who come from like all over the world. So they're like, it's a huge industry
from
in the
every
US.
end of the earth we have people in this country.
That's the beauty of America, and that's what inspired me to keep doing this.
Wonderful.
That's what was like, okay, so I have found my niche. This is what I'm going to do.
Good.
This is what my career is going to be, and until I'm tired, I'm going to just keep telling these
keep on
stories.
doing what you're doing.
Yes.
Great. Thank you very much. I know you interviewed me. Thank you very much for that. I appreciated it. So, as I understand, you're an actor also. So
Yes.
tell me a little bit about how did you get into the acting?
See, meeting you was also part of that.
Yeah. Is that right?
Of course, I'm coming there. So what was that? So when I was storytelling, that's what I have always.
And the
been
acting
thinking.
is storytelling.
So
is
yeah,
that the way
journalism
you-
and acting, they have like this common thread, which is storytelling. When you do TV, when you do theater, when you do film, you're telling a story. You're bringing out something which you think is so important that other people needs to know. So that's how, when I was in college and school, I used to take part in little, different extracurricular activities, and writing poetry and acting was one of those things. So when I got to, of course, school, I couldn't do anything because I was so busy with studies. But when I started working at Voice of America, then I got to know people who were, of course, literary, and people who were already done so much. And then there were few colleagues of my Voice of America who were already retired from Voice of America, and now they were writing stories, they were doing like plays and theater. So that's how I got into theater. I was like selected by one of my former colleague. She was like, okay, I think you can do this theater. I was like, I have never done it.
So have you done any theater?
Yeah. So that's how it started. I did one play back in 2011, and then since then I have done 8 plays, and those are like full-fledged presentations. So I have presented plays in Georgetown and George Washington universities. We traveled on to North Carolina, and we worked with Ajoka Theatre. That's a huge theatre company in Pakistan since the independence. And then they also present a lot of theatre in India as well. They travel around the world, and
wow,
their plays are like it's like from historic point of view to all the way like contemporary stories.
Very
so they have
good.
done so much. So if you Google Ajoka, you will find a lot of inspiring stuff.
So what about the character in
yes,
the acting?
of course, character I'm coming, but then meeting you.
Meeting me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when I was doing those theaters, of course, I got to know people who were, of course, in film and TV. So that's how I got into a group, DC Storytellers.
Okay.
So that Storytellers invited me to this DC South Asian Film Festival.
Correct.
And then I was invited to your house for a
Yes.
dinner for this
Yes.
the South Asian Film Festival a couple of days. That's where I met you.
Right.
And then we got to know, and then our friendship and our connection grew, and today we are here.
We bonded together.
Yes.
Very well. Well,
And
thank
not
you
only
very
the
much.
last name, but we have so much in common.
No question about it. We share a common values and common character.
Exactly.
And we represent the conscience of this nation.
And you came here to this country as a student as well.
Yes, I did.
Having Saqib Islam.
that
And
is
you
all true
struggled
statement.
around. You went to different
I
states.
struggle and sacrifice,
Exactly.
but America has been very kind to me, and I do embody the American dream.
Yes.
So hopefully my success story will resonate well with the millions of immigrants as well as people across the globe, and it reaffirms the notion that anything can happen in America and impossible can be made possible.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the character. What kind of character have you played in these acting?
Well,
roles?
life is a stage, and we are playing our respective characters. So, other than that, in plays, I have done like so many different variety of characters. So when I started, it was a historic play. So we talked about the partition of subcontinent.
The partition of
in
India
the
and Pakistan
yes,
in 47.
Before that,
Before
even
that.
like when Mughals time and even before that. So we're
Mughals
talking-
time, there was the partition?
Yes, and then the East India Company came
Okay.
into the subcontinent, and then of course the British took over, and then when they left, they parted Pakistan and India. But it was a story when before British. So it was a story when Muslims and Hindus were living together in harmony.
In communal peace and harmony.
Yes, and then the British came in. So it was a story about that, and then I was playing the character of this a servant who goes through all this talk in the royal palaces about how to take each other down. So that was a very difficult character because I was playing a Hindu character. I was, of course, I wanted to do good for Hindus, but then I was also like a kind person, and I was thinking, no, what we're doing is wrong. But so it was like all this politics in these like royal galleries. What happened, you know, when Britishers came in? The Rani who let Britishers in, she was in love with the guy who brought in, not, you know, and all that. So yeah, I mean, so things like that. So that was one of the characters. Then the most difficult character what I played was a comic character. So where if you read stories, Ali Muhammad Khan, that was a writer, and he wrote this a short play about this school setting where a girl and a guy, they're like kind of like each other, but it had a historic touch to it as well. But then it was comic. So I think the comic characters are the most difficult to play because it's very easy to make somebody cry, but it's the most difficult job to make somebody laugh.
Well, thank you very much, and we'll be right back, and we'll just get back to some other questions that we can converse and talk about it.
Great.
We'll be back in a minute.
अब आपका होगा अपना घर, सपना घर। Your dreams can come true. SAI Mortgage is key for you. अपना घर खरीदने और रीफाइनेंस करवाने के लिए SAI Mortgage से राब्ता करें।
Don't make a move without SAI.
Now we're back with Saqib Islam. So Saqib, you talk a little bit about being a journalist, talk about being acting, talking about your journey from Rawalpindi to Pakistan. Now you're a journalist and you're working at Voice of America, serving our country and your community and our community as well. So what's the typical day like being a digital journalist, and what do you do?
That's a very comprehensive answer to it, but of course I could go way with what a journalist does. But my day is very difficult and very different, I would say rather. So the thing is, we broadcast to Pakistan. Mm-hmm. The time difference is 10 hours.
10 hours, correct.
So I wake up at 3 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
3:30.
And
I have to report at work at 4:30 a.m.
4:30 a.m. in the morning.
Yes. So what we do, the first thing we do is we see what's happening around the world, what's happening in the U.S., what happened overnight, and we have to pick the stories that we're going to cover for that
top
day.
stories.
Top stories, the breaking news, or we don't do the breaking news per se, but what we do is we do the most important news of the day. So that's what we do. And then, so we have to put together the stories, we get the pictures and the videos and all that, and then get ready for the studio, which is like 7 in the morning. So that's why we have to get in early so that we can get ready, write, put the script ready, and be in the studio.
And you do the writing also?
Yes, we write the script, we put together the videos, we edit stuff, and then we have a whole team, of course. We have a producers.
And when you're ready to air it, and how long that process takes before you air them?
The show is half an hour, so of course it's live show, so live to tape, and it's done in half an hour, but the
preparation
takes like 3 hours.
Yeah.
And then once we're done with that, we take a break for a few minutes, we have a cup of coffee or water because we've been talking and just like running around like headless chickens all day. all morning actually. And then we prepare for the next day. We sit down together and we see, okay, what feature stories are we going to be putting in the show? So we have top of the show is like hard news, political stories, and then the later part of the show we talk about Muslims in America, we talk about health, we talk about technology, we talk about education, so stories coming from all over the world. And then we have stringers around the world, not only in India and Pakistan, but we have stringers in Europe, we have stringers in South America, who send us stories. So what we do is like we put those together and we weave those stories into our shows.
Wow.
And that's how it keeps us aware of what's happening in the world. And
Do
it's
you
also
interview
like
them, some individual, as a part of your show that you're doing? You said you talk about stories about Muslims, you talk about stories around the world, but do you interview anybody doing that?
Yeah, so our show has a format which is not only the stories and feature stories, but we have, of course, the breaking news and the hot news as well.
Okay.
So if anything happens, like Brexit happened, or what happened
You
in the
highlight
Middle
that.
East,
Do you get
what
the
happened
people-
with the Jerusalem.
Okay.
So we'll bring an analyst, we'll talk to them. Mostly they're like Washington-based analysts, not only like academia, but also think tanks and stuff.
Okay.
So we'd ask them what repercussions have this decision of some so and so is going to be, how this event is going to affect the future, and what is the way forward from here, what people should expect. So
So what
things like
motivates
this.
you to do all these things, Saqib?
Okay. What motivates me is, of course,
And what are the challenges do you face in doing all these things?
Okay.
Well, for the question that I have for you is two questions, I guess. One is the one motivates you, the journalist, and also what challenges do you face as a journalist?
So the satisfaction that you get when somebody tells you that, okay, I didn't know this unless I saw it in your show.
Oh.
Or when we, like, it's a very different feeling when you can say somebody that, okay, at least you are changing somebody's life in little, very like small little way. But if you are educating and
You're making a
informing
difference.
people, you're making a difference in
You're having
somebody's
some
life
impact and
somewhere.
influence.
Yes, all around the world. Like people, like not only where we broadcast, Pakistan, India, and Afghanistan.
So when you go to Pakistan, people know who Saqib Islam is.
That's of course a part because we are on TV every day. But
Okay.
that's not the goal. The goal is to educate people, inform, make them informed. So that's the satisfaction lies in when you see that, okay, at least one person got to know something that you were trying to convey. One person educated themselves watching your show or story or something. So that's what motivates me. That's what my whole idea of journalism is, that you are making a difference. You are informing, engaging, and educating people. That's what it is.
That's very well said. You represent the best of your humanity.
Try.
So journalism transcends all boundaries, correct?
Tries.
At least it does.
It
so,
tries, yes.
So how do you separate the facts from fiction and from the truth to the lie? Facts from fictions and truth from lie.
Okay. Fact
How
and
do you
fiction.
separate?
So the first rule of journalism is you do not report whatever you hear the first.
You investigate it.
You investigate, you find out, you have like 2 to 3 sources
Okay.
to confirm
So you
that
have a
what you're
process in
saying
place.
is the right. So we have this whole process. Of course, Voice of America is a huge organization, and it's been there for 70 years, 75 years actually now. So they have the whole system in place where, of course, we have resources and sources to find out what's the truth and what's the fiction. So before we report, we have to go through all these parameters. We have to go through all these given sets of rules. So we cannot just like write or say something what we want or what
Very
we
well.
heard. So if we receive any information, if we receive a picture, we cannot put it on air unless it's verified.
Okay.
So that thing. And then the other thing is, of course, when you work for a big organization, you have checks and balances, and there are people. So what I write is it goes through 2 other pair of eyes.
So it goes to the review
So
process.
when I write, it's copy edited by my managing editor, and then executive producer, he or they go through it, and then they okay it. So and unless it's like something we are sitting and then there's something comes in and it's already been done from back end, and then it comes to us. So things like that.
Very good. So you have a process in place.
Yes, of course.
To make sure that that you are telling the story to your best knowledge and abilities accurate.
Yes. So sitting on TV in front of the camera and talking to people is, I think, the easiest job in the world. But what you're saying and how you're saying is the most difficult job in the world.
So we will take a break. We'll be right back. We'll be back in a minute.
अब आपका होगा अपना घर, सपना घर।
Your dreams can come true. SAI mortgage is key for you.
अपना घर खरीदने और रीफाइनेंस करवाने के लिए SAI मॉर्गेज से राब्ता करें।
Don't make a move without SCI.
We are back with Saqib Islam. So Saqib, what would you say to others, especially the youth, facing the same challenges as you did? Can you tell us?
Of course, as a young kid out from Pakistan and questioning towards America, I had all these different dreams in my mind, and I always had goals. But those goals were not achieved right away or the way I wanted. So, be ready for the worst, prepare for the worst, and always, always, always. Don't think that you're small, because as Jinnah said, you make up for your smallness by the courage and devotion that you bring to your cause. And then at the end of the day, all we are doing is pursuit of happiness, as our founding fathers of America wrote in the Declaration of Independence, that all men are created equal and independent. And that gives them equal right for the preservation of life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And that's what we are, that's what we are striving for it. And the best way to do it is, like, once you are pursuing your happiness, be careful that you are not depriving somebody else of their happiness.
Very good. So is somebody watching this show in this nation, in this country, or in this continent, as well as some other part of the world, including Pakistan, who wants to be like Saqib Islam, an anchor at Voice of America, and you came from Pakistan, you went to the right colleges and got a good education, and you have been very successful. So what message do you have if someone, a young person, wants to get into this kind of a career of journalism and learn from your success story? What message do you have for them?
Message was same, of course.
Well, first of all, you got to work hard and get education.
Work hard and get
education.
A good education. Bring devotion and all your heart and mind and soul to it. Because once you have a goal, you cannot achieve it until you give it everything.
Suppose you're not successful, then you pick up the pieces and you go back.
And failure is not the worst thing in the world. Failure is the best thing that can happen to you. Because once you fail, you come back with more force. So failure, do not think that if you fail once, that's the end of the world.
So one thing I say, Saqib, success teaches you how to move forward.
Exactly.
But failure teaches you how never to go backward.
And how to move forward in a better way.
Very well said.
So so my journey hasn't ended, it's just started, I think.
Yes.
So I have a long way to go. I have so many stories to tell. So in this short period of time, when I was I worked as a journalist and as a theater actor, I try to tell stories which matter. So I went from Hawaii to Alaska within the United States to tell the stories of Muslims in those states where people don't know much. And a lot of Americans don't know where, there are more than 3,000 people living in Hawaii, and they've been there for centuries, other than native. So stuff like this, then when you go out on the ground, when you find these stories, bring them and deliver them. So if anybody out there and they think that, okay, they know something which really strikes their heart or mind or soul, they should strive to bring that out. Don't keep...
You try to bring the best out of them.
Best out of it, yes. And share your stories. Because as a Muslim, or as a Muslim, as a Pakistani, as an American now, I think we have to share our stories. Today, as an American, it's my responsibility to share my stories, what is happening in my country. How can I tell the rest of the world, okay, what you see is not what it is. The real story lies with the people who live in here, the people who live the life every day. You cannot tell, okay, how it's going in some country by looking at the news or telling, okay, this is what's happening. No, just you have to go and see and meet people and talk to them and get the facts from the ground.
Very well said. You face perhaps some challenges and some hostility and perhaps in some cases prejudice, being a Pakistani, being a Muslim. How were you able to overcome those challenges and did it give you the strength and the courage to move on, to do better, to be the best?
I mean, of course, when you leave your home at a young age and when you set forth for a world which is unknown to you, and when you go out in the world and in the wild basically, there are challenges. There are going to be setbacks. There are going to be days when you
pick up the pieces, move on.
Yeah. And there are going to be days when you will see, what the hell I'm doing with my life. I should go back and live with my parents, and there's nothing.
But that's
to worry.
not a sustainable.
But that's you have to come out of your comfort zone. That's when
So venture into the new horizon.
Yes. So when I got out, from my comfort zone, and I was here, like I had all sorts of challenges. I had challenge to, of course, the first challenge was how to communicate with the people, because of course English is not a difficult language, but the expressions are.
So
how to connect with
teach
people.
you English and
Of course.
In Pakistan.
So I was like, I'm saying like speaking a language is not difficult, but getting the expressions and connecting with people is.
So expressing in most eloquent and powerful message.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
Exactly. And then getting to the
That's
level
an
of
art.
people, getting easy with people, So when you live here, you know how the different expressions are. The words doesn't mean what they mean in the way we think. So yeah, I mean, language was a barrier, the culture was a barrier, but I settled in and I learned every day. I kept myself open for new opportunities and new learnings every day. And here I am.
So you learn every day something new.
Yes.
So what I call
myself a storyteller and a student of life.
Well, you
I'm
also
learning every day.
Be a lifelong learner.
Yes. That's
So-
what you have to be if you want to go ahead and move forward. You can't just say that I know everything. No.
You learn
Every
something
day.
new every day.
Yes.
Well,
Every day.
Saqib, thank you very much for coming to our show, and good luck to you.
Thank you, Frank, and the people who are watching me. Please watch our show, View 360. We present it every day at 7:30 p.m. on Aaj News in Pakistan. And of course, you can watch it on our website, voanews.com and urduvoa.com, everywhere in the world.
Thank you very much, Saqib. Thank you.
Thank you, Frank.
This is Frank Islam wishing you a great week, and thank you for watching.